Seamus and Cesaro turned heel.
I wonder if
But the Hardys retained.
I'm sick of the Hardys.
Okay.
And it says Bray Wyatt threw a refrigerator on top of Randy Orton.
That sounds painful.
Yep. Only on the WWE can you read things like one guy threw a refrigerator on another.
Yeah.
That is not good.
I don't see anything about that.
Oof. Come on.
Let's see. WWE.
All right. What do we need to not talk about on here?
Normally it's a little bit cleaner than this.
All right. You ready to start cook this turkey?
Let's do it.
All right, here we go. We're going to start in 3, 2, 1. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Geekvice episode 173, proving any vice with enough geek can become a virtue. My name's Morph. That man's Kip. Good evening, Kip.
Good evening.
And we have a special guest with us tonight, which is Kip's wife, Holly. Goes by @Queen Tuffy Rules on Twitter. Say hi, Holly.
Thanks, Aaron. I'm thrilled to be here. I'm so excited.
She didn't want to be on camera.
Yeah, she didn't want to be on camera, so if you're watching on YouTube, you'll just hear her, which is okay, because she's the only female in the group, so her voice will stick out anyway.
Next time I will, I'll be on camera.
And we will not record past your bedtime, so thanks for staying
That would
up
be
with
fabulous.
us.
Thank you, Aaron. And I'll think up some clever t-shirt to wear for my next appearance.
Yeah, see?
Which I'm already excited for. So thank you for having me.
We're glad to have you here. And before we get into the reason you're here, let's we just have one announcement this week, and that is Geekvice Tabletop Day is next week.
Woo!
So everybody enjoyed International Tabletop Day by Geek and Sundry on Saturday. Next Saturday we'll have Geekvice's turn at Tabletop Day. So come join us at California Pizza Kitchen in Leawood, Kansas. You can find all the information you need for that event on our Facebook page at facebook.com/Geekvice. Go to the events. It's at the top of the page. Or go to posts. It's at the top of the page. It's all right there. You can get all the information you need. Please come join us. We'll be there from noon to 5 on that Saturday. We will have the board games. You just come and join us and play some games. So it'll be a good time.
Yeah, what he said.
Yeah, and I'm planning on, let's see, of the games that I'm bringing, just to name a few, I'm going to bring Battleship Galaxies. I'm going to bring Mice and Mystics. I'm going to bring Legendary, a Marvel deck building game. I'm going to have, let's see, I'm going to have a bunch more too, but I just don't know what they are. I'll probably bring Ticket to Ride, because why wouldn't I?
What about Legend of Drizzt?
Ooh, yes, Legends of Drizzt. I will definitely have that one.
So out of the games he's bringing, 2 of them are mine. How's that?
Yeah. See, hey, they get played here though. So.
Yeah. Well, I'm bringing Star Trek Panic.
Awesome.
There's the box. Police Precinct.
Nice.
I've decided against Scythe because it takes up so much space.
Right.
And there's so many chances of all those pieces to get lost.
Right.
I'm going to bring Black Fleet, a pirate game, and Get Bit, which is a little fast filler type of game.
Right.
Where you try to keep your little people from getting eaten by a shark.
Yep. I'm going to be. I will make sure that I have flapjacks and Sasquatches.
Okay.
And I might actually even throw in a little tricked out hero.
Hey, now you're talking.
I was hoping there. I had my fingers crossed, hoping that we would get Witch Slapped in before this weekend, but got notification from our good friend John over with Prolific Games that shipping has been delayed a little bit. It got through customs, but hasn't made it to him yet. He hadn't had a chance to get it out to everybody, so we should be getting that very soon, but we won't have it before this weekend. So, bummer there, but that just means it's one more thing for us to get together and play later.
Yeah, and I'm going to bring more. I just haven't figured out what they're going to be yet.
Yeah, I don't have. Well, I mean, I'm down in my basement, and my game closet's upstairs, so I have no idea. Like, I can't remember every game that I have in there, so I know I will be bringing a bunch more. I haven't even asked my kids which ones are coming, which probably means half the closet's gonna come with us. So, that's the way it works. So I hope you all can join us. It'll be Saturday, May 6th is the date. It's at California Pizza and Kitchen. That is just off of Row. Closest intersection is Row and 119th Street, if you're familiar with the Kansas City area. So I hope anyone who's down in this area, in the Kansas City area, comes and joins us. And if you're not in the Kansas City area and you come join us, that's even better. So
that's right. We may buy you a beer if you're not from the Kansas City area.
Yeah, absolutely.
More anyway.
I'll buy you a beer. I like beer. And we're gonna have a couple giveaways. We're still working on what those will actually be, but they'll be gaming related, and we will have a couple giveaways that we can. So you have a chance of winning something if you show up. So.
Yeah, see, you don't even know where your own camera is.
I don't. I rearranged everything, so I hope everyone likes the new image. They could see the KC logo in the background, because, that's getting repainted this summer. So, anyway, enough of that shenanigans. It's time to get into the real deal. So, Holly is joining us because this weekend was Planet Comic Con, and this is the first time Holly has been to a comic book convention, let alone Planet Comic Con itself. So we have a full comic book convention noob on the air with us tonight, and we're going to hear what she thought about her first comic book convention. So, Holly, let's get you started here. What are your initial thoughts on Planet Comic Con, and why'd you want to go?
Well, actually, last fall, John took me to Kansas City Comic-Con, and I really enjoyed that. It was an interesting exposure to, you hear about, San Diego Comic-Con, and John has gone to these cons for a couple of years now, and I was just curious what it was really going to be like. The one in the fall was much smaller. Planet Comic-Con, it is a huge deal. The stars that they bring in for panelists and things like that, I think are top tier. And I was just curious to see what it would really feel like to be at a big con like that. So I liked it a lot. I mean, we chose not to attend any panels this year. We just didn't do our research ahead of time. But I think next year we will be wanting to go to panels. I think they bring in a lot of interesting people that I would want to hear from. People like Michael Rooker and Stephen and Mel. John has a board game signed by Will Wheaton, who's a ginormous board gamer. And so I think if he was doing a panel, or if he was doing something, I think we'd want to listen in to what he has to say. For me, I think the biggest piece of it is the people watching, which I have to say some of the costumes were really well thought out. People put a lot of time and effort into dressing up as a character, and I can appreciate the time that they spent in it. Some people kind of just sort of half-assed it, obviously, but it's fascinating. I think people are, the best way I can say this is, people are narcissistic anyway. So, but the people, everyone that I asked, like, can I take a picture of you? They were all very nice. I think it's kind of flattering to a lot of people that worked on their costumes to have somebody say, can I get a picture of you? And they were all very nice and obliging. I didn't like the people with all the kids strollers because that made it much tougher for us to kind of get around and maneuver. No one was really paying attention to like where they were walking per se, but I think that's people in crowds these days. They just kind of are in their own like universe, but it was fantastic. I mean, I wish that we had like just, I don't know, maybe a sneak preview to walk through ahead of time. I think that would have been cool. Obviously, there was a lot of merchandise, tons of comics. Not as many T-shirts as I thought there would be as far as that goes. But it was fun. And I think as John and I continue to go to these types of cons, like the one we're going to go to, OCon, in July up in Omaha, since he'll be on a panel. I think the exposure as far as figuring out like what we want to do and seeing, if the same kinds of vendors are there. And I just think there's a lot of future in the cons as far as podcasting goes, and just taking in the whole experience. I was pretty fascinated by the turnout of people.
Yeah, and Planet Comic Con it is the largest comic book convention in Kansas City for sure, and I would even argue that it's probably one of the largest ones in the Midwest. I mean, it is jam packed with people, and they get a lot of people. They get a lot of people in there, a lot of people through there, and it does. I mean, the couple years ago when I went, that was probably one of my biggest complaints was just you felt like you couldn't stop in front of a booth to look at stuff because there was people behind you trying to get by, and if you stopped, everybody stopped. And if the guy in front of you stopped, then you better want to look at what they were looking at because you're not going to get past them because there's so many people there. Um, they could probably work on that a little bit. I don't know what they could do with as many people, with as many booths and different artists and writers that they have in there. I mean, it's incredible to seeing all the different works that they do, the different artwork that they just have hanging up. Did you walk out with any artwork or anything from there?
Oh
Actually,
yeah, she's got one in the queue here. She's been dying to show.
I will say that the artwork there is outstanding. I think John and I both feel like if we had enough walls in the house that we could, if there were places to put that, we would buy a lot of the artwork there. It's spectacular. People are super talented. As it happens, there is a couple that lives here that are from Kansas City, Rob Schomburger and his wife Katie, and Rob is an artist for the WWE and has painted many of the WWE superstars. And so we picked up this little beauty, which has been signed by my resident superhero Seth Rollins. And
Nice.
so
Woo! Seth in your face.
So Seth will have a special place once Seth is framed and figure out where to put him in the house. But I think I really like that there's a lot of artwork. There's people who are writing their own books, writing their own comics, just creating a lot of different things. And, whether it's socks or mittens or whatever, hats, there's a lot of craft work there, and it's nice to see that on display.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that. I wish I had space to hang a bunch of artwork, because it the artists, I mean, just the stuff that they do, and you find comic book artists and things like, and even some of the stuff that people are making, like you'd said, with the mittens and things like that, people laugh at that, but no, there's people that make stuff that just go to these conventions to sell it, and it's almost like the comic book conventions now, and maybe they've always been like this, but they kind of remind me, like the like old town, like street fair type stuff where they just have booths of stuff that people made, and it's just lining streets outside, and you just walk up and down them, and there's all the stuff that people have made, and some of it you look at and you go, wow, that's interesting, and then some of you look at it and go, man, somebody took that much time and came up with that out of nothing, just off the top of their head they come up with it, and seeing that stuff in the comic book conventions is really cool, and the way the geek world is kind of influences people and what they come up with is a lot of fun to see and watch. Um, so did you get to now? Planet Comic Con is known for having a bunch of celebrities there. Did you go stand in line to see any of the celebrities, or were there any celebrities there that you like specifically wanted to go see and either did or didn't?
I think I would have liked to have seen like maybe Will Wheaton. I'm trying to think if Michael Rooker was there. I think
he was originally scheduled and he had to cancel.
Okay. I think we would have liked to have seen John Barrowman, who's on both The Arrow and Legends of Tomorrow. John and I are not big, I don't know how to say it. I mean, we're just not really overwhelmed with celebrity. Maybe we should be, but I think we both feel like
it's because we're already big deals ourselves.
Right. Yeah. It's very hard for us to. I think if there were like people on a what I would have liked is like if there were people who work on a show or who've worked on a show together. If they'd put them on a panel, like let's say Stephen Amell and John Barrowman, and then maybe somebody else from like Arrow or whatever. If they'd had a panel like that, I think we might have been interested to do that. I can't really think of it. There's only really one person I'd consider paying for a autograph, and I mean that person wasn't even at Planet Comic Con. I think it's great that they have that available for the fans because like I think for John it would have been cool for him to like get a picture with like Felicity Day or is it Felicia Day?
Felicia Day.
But because
she's a big fan.
I mean,
well, that's why I asked the question, because there's some people, I've never been big into like going and specifically hunting out celebrities to like, and especially to like pay to get their autograph and things like that. Like I'm a cheapskate, so I don't really pay much. I don't like paying for anything. But there's a few people out there in the world that I would love to just shake their hand and say, hey, thanks for all that you do, because they do some pretty cool stuff. And John Barrowman's one. I loved him in Doctor Who. I followed him from. I specifically started watching the show Torchwood because of it was the same character he played in Doctor Who, and I love that character. And and then even from there, seeing him on Arrow and seeing him on Legends of Tomorrow, like I just his depth of being able to perform and play these different characters and just the over the top nature that he can go from being dead serious as Malcolm Merlin to being just this crazy maybe just off the wall, over the top Captain Jack Harkness from Torchwood. Like they're two extremes, and he does an incredible job of both of them. He'd be somebody that I would just love to just shake his hand. Felicia Day is another one. It's just like just for what she's done for an industry that we enjoy so much. If it wasn't for Felicia Day, I mean, she's got to this geek culture. She helped prove that it's not a bunch of nerds that live in their mom's basements. These are people that have talents, and all it takes is somebody um, to use those talents, to put those talent, like give them a place to show off what they can do, and what she's done with Geek and Sundry has been pretty incredible.
Yeah. I would pay money to like play a board game with Will Wheaton. I think that would be pretty cool.
Yes, that would be cool. That would be
Yeah,
very cool.
if they had like you could buy a $200 pass and you get to play a board game with Will Wheaton, I'd be all over that.
Absolutely.
What I'd like to do is like, and I know that they auction these off and they're just a ton of money, but like what WWE does is they auction off like backstage tours with certain WWE superstars. I would love to see how backstage works um, in a behind the scenes, because it's really so secretive. And I mean, there's all these people milling about. You don't know who they are, what their function is. There's always stuff going on. I want the peek behind the curtain. That's really what I want.
Yeah.
So if I were to pay for something, it would be something like that.
Yeah, that would definitely be cool. Like I fly on the wall, man. I'd love to just be a fly on the wall.
Yeah. Yeah, I just think it's a whole nother, every place that, people work is like a microcosm in the universe. And that's just one microcosm. And I just think that, you'd get to observe people, off stage, behind the scenes, doing whatever it is they do to get ready for their matches or their promos or whatever else. And I think it's a whole universe that most of us who are wrestling fans would love to get that peek. And so to me, I don't really Jones to have somebody's autograph per se. I have so many questions that I would want to ask people about their outside life versus, what they do is great. They're very entertaining, but I have so many questions about, you're called this, but your real name is that. And, who gets to call you your real name, and who, everybody else in the world calls you this name that really isn't your name, but it kind of is.
Right.
So, I find all of that very interesting.
So so you didn't get to any of the panels. Did you look at some of I guess did you look at some of the panels that were there this year and kind of figure out like, oh, hey, this would have been a really cool one. If they have this next year, we want to do that. Did you come across anything like that?
We didn't even find any information about where the panels were and what they were going to be. And maybe we just needed to do more research ahead of time. But I think we were mostly interested in the exhibit hall for a couple of reasons. We knew some people that would be going, and we wanted to see them. I like to shop, so we wanted to see what was available. And I definitely think the panels, I mean, I think they probably had some really great panels, and it would have given our legs a break because, I mean, we both don't have any trouble walking around, but after a while you're like, man, I could really use a break and just sit down. And I think the people they've got interesting and unusual, they lead interesting and unusual lives, nothing like what we do going to work, 8 to 5 every day. So getting their perspective of what it's like to be on their shows, or being an actor, or whatever it is would have been, or someone who draws comic books. I think we really have to do a much better job next year researching and figuring out where the panels are going to be and making sure we get to go. I think because this is really my first Planet Comic-Con, we were just more interested in going on the exhibit, in the exhibit hall and kind of seeing what was going on there, because the people watching is always just, that's truly the best part. The people watching is, I mean, it's endless entertainment.
Oh yeah, yeah, and that was something that I was that I kind of ran into when I went, was that I kind of ran into the same problem where it's like I wanted to see what some of the panels were, but by the time I figured out what the panels were, it was like, oh, well, that one's only on Sunday. I'm like, well, I'm only here on Saturday, so if I'd have known
Right.
this was on Sunday, maybe I would have bought a ticket for Sunday as opposed to Saturday. But yeah, I would like to see some of that stuff up ahead of time, and I don't know how soon, like how much ahead of time those panels are really put into place. But yeah,
I think there's plenty of time. It's just, she's married to me, so she was counting on me to know all this stuff, and anybody who knows me knows that doing research ahead of time is not my forte.
I don't
he's
think it's that. I don't think it's that. I think it was really more like wanted to get my feet really wet and see what a bigger con was, and I think the piece that amazes me is how well supported it is by Kansas City and the surrounding areas, because there were tons of people there. They had plenty of volunteers. Some of it was a little discombobulated as far as where booths were and signage and stuff like that. But I think, the fact that so many people turned out to, they brought their families and there were little kids there, and, people obviously were in costume. So I think was probably my big takeaway, is that Planet Comic Con is very well supported and attended by people in Kansas City.
yeah,
And I think
yeah,
that's a good thing. I think it's a really big thing, and I can't wait to see if they continue to grow and grow and grow.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't know how much longer they're gonna be. I don't know where they could go that would be bigger than Bartle Hall, but I mean, they are they are definitely on their way to needing more space if they keep growing the way they've been growing over the last couple of years. You had talked about the costumes and stuff like that. Was there a favorite costume that you saw there, or something that a favorite costume? And was there a costume that you just felt like, oh my goodness, everybody seems to be in that costume?
Well, we saw this in the fall. That's a great question, actually. Both of those are great questions, Aaron. What we saw the most of last fall, and we again saw it this year, was for the women, it was Harley Quinn. There were even some young girls dressed up as Harley Quinn, and I actually thought it was very cute.
Were they Harley Quinn from the Suicide Squad movie or Harley Quinn from the comic books?
Harley
It
Quinn,
was actually a little bit of both, but there was tons of girls wearing Daddy's Little Monster T-shirts.
yeah, and they all had either mallets or bats. One girl actually had what looked like the shoes from the movie. So
Oh,
um,
nice.
people put, like I said, a lot of, and I understand, like I get that. Like Harley is not only beautiful, at least in the movie, she is, drop dead gorgeous, and she's also kind of dangerous. And I think for women, that's highly appealing, to be a beautiful character, but somebody with a tough edge who's a bit of a nut. You never know what she's going to do. So we saw lots of Harleys. Saw a lot of people dressed up in, kind of like Star Wars clothes. We did see some people in what I kind of like, which is like Renaissance Festival clothes, because, I like that.
She likes the steampunk as well.
I do. I like the style of the steampunk. And so, but yeah, it was, and then of course there's tons of people who are in or not uniforms, costumes, and I have no idea of who what character they're supposed to be. They might be a character from a Japanese anime. They might be, from a comic I've never heard of. So it was very interesting. We happened to be walking to get to Bartle. We parked down by the Bristol, and these people in front of us were dressed as escaped inmates from Arkham, and they had the orange shirts.
Nice.
And one guy had his hair dyed green, and I thought, you know what? Any other place in the world, I see these 5 people walking along, and I would have called the cops and been like, there's some serious bad loons on the loose.
Right.
But there they fit in perfectly. So, like I said, the creativity of some of the folks who come up with their costumes and stuff was really cool. I thought I would have a favorite costume. I really thought there'd be one that would be that's my favorite, and and there really wasn't. I liked them. There was one guy dressed up as Captain Rogers. He had a pretty good looking, Captain America shield. There were a couple of Deadpools that were okay. There was one guy, we should have taken a picture of it, he looked like Groot.
Nice.
But there wasn't one that really stood out to me as like the winner of the costumes and everything else. And then a lot of people asked me before I went, they're like, well, aren't you going to dress up? And why aren't you going to dress up? And, I think dressing up in costume is fun. I think it's Halloween, you get to be a different character, a different person. The problem with me is that I'd want to be like Hawkeye out of the Avengers, or, you know what I mean? I would want to be probably vintage Princess Leia, that kind of thing. But I've never felt like I need to dress up to escape to be somebody else. Right. And so I like being me. So I don't have a strong desire to come up with some sort of giant medieval princess gown and, all this other stuff and walk around in it. So I admire the people who do. They seem to be having lots of fun. But I don't know that I would ever do the costume thing unless I could find a character that's like a really strong woman and who isn't sort of dressed, scantily or whatever. So
Right.
I'm sure she's out there. I just haven't found her yet.
Yeah, and I mean sometimes costumes in general are just like coming up and doing cosplay. I've got a respect for them, for people who do that and who create their own stuff, because you can go online and buy a costume and just have a costume and put it on and be good to go and show up to these conventions and probably look really good. But the people who go through the effort and the time and the energy to create those costumes, it's something I can't do. I mean, one, I'm not that creative. I sit here and talk on the internet. That's what I do for creativity, and it's not even that creative. So, it's there's only so much I can do. But man, the time and effort that they put into it, and the love that they have for that character to really do that is impressive. So I agree with you. I'm not a big cosplayer. I've never really dressed up for much of anything. I think it's kind of cool. I dress up for Halloween. I do that. But even then, the creativity and the effort level that I put into that costume is less than I put into this show. And if anyone, listens to the show, that should be a sign in and of itself.
Yeah, I found it kind of interesting. There seemed to be you could definitely tell the people who sort of slopped their stuff together. And there, even as we were walking towards the convention center and there were people sort of leaving, there were people, and the best way I can say this without sounding bad is that there were people in costumes that really should not have been in any type of costume, because it did them a ginormous disservice.
Right.
But I love the creativity that people come up with. I love that people are, I don't want to say courageous, because I think people should feel good about dressing up in costume, and there's nothing bad or wrong about it. I think a lot of people had fun with it, and I think that's probably the best part of the people in the costumes. I didn't really get to see a lot of what the professional cosplayers. We watched a documentary about that, actually, probably about a year or so ago, and LARPers, and it's just fascinating to see people who take it to the next level and how important it is in their life. And how much time and money they spend to be someone else. I don't feel like we ran into anyone like that this weekend.
Yeah.
So,
Well, there was. I can tell you that there's at least one, and there was probably more that were there that you either didn't know or that were in cosplay that you just wouldn't have any idea that it was them. But one of them was they actually had, and I remember her name, and I'm probably going to screw this up, but I believe it is Jessie Negri. She is a professional cosplayer that goes around to a whole bunch of conventions, and she was actually one of the guests. She was one of the celebrity guests that was there. That's how.
Yeah, we saw her when we first got there.
Yeah,
But it
I
was like
mean
leaving the building when we got there.
yeah, that's her job or that's what she does is just make costumes and go to these conventions and um, I've had the honor, I guess, or I don't know, the privilege of getting to meet some of these people that do this or talk to some of these people through, the different things that I do. And man, these guys, they are creative and just very talented people. So it's a cool gig. Um, so you had a good experience at playing a Comic Con. You gonna go back next year?
yeah, we're definitely already looking forward to next year. It's probably going to sound a little bit snotty, but we're probably going to go either like Fast Pass or VIP and see what that's like. We're definitely going to select panels ahead of time,
Yeah.
and so I think we'll plan better. This was a good like run for us, especially for me since I hadn't experienced it last year and really could only experience it vicariously through John talking about, everything that happened last year. So I think for 2018, we're going to be much better prepared. And I think we'll probably spend a lot more time there.
Yeah.
And hopefully a lot more cash. There was quite a few things I would have definitely
Oh man.
picked up that I liked, but really I think it's just kind of seeing the people and the support for that community, and I really enjoyed it. I wish that they had like and I'm sure they do, is have a planning committee or something like that, and then
Oh, they do.
people who help brainstorm on how to bring people in, and
Yeah.
yeah, so I was impressed. I was definitely impressed. And I think it's almost going to be, I don't want to say it's going to be sort of anticlimactic to go to smaller cons, because now that I've been to the big one, the big deal, other than San Diego, which I can't see John and I ever going to. But never say never. I think it will be interesting to see, this fall, if it feels just so much smaller to us,
Right.
as far as that goes. But
Yeah.
I think it's fantastic. I'll be curious to see what celebrities they bring in, and I'd really like to get to, 2 or 3 panels, especially if it's things that we're interested in.
Yeah. Absolutely.
What
Absolutely.
about you? I mean, do you think you could actually, be able to go one day? Because,
Yeah.
and I say that because you and John could podcast there.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, so there's a high probability that I'll be at O Comic Con this summer, which is in July. Um, Stay tuned for more information on that because the podcast arcade, which we're a part of, is got a bigger hand in that one. But the as far as Planet Comic Con, yeah, I would love to go back. I mean, I went a couple years ago and had a blast. I purposely didn't bring any cash. My wallet was completely empty, and it was completely empty for the sole reason of whatever money I took, I was going to end up spending because there's just so much cool stuff. Um, but yeah, I'm wanting to go. The biggest problem I have is Planet Comic Con usually falls right in the middle of soccer season, and so um, up till this or Saturday morning, I guess, I wasn't going to have any time to be there with all the other with soccer games and everything that the kids were going to. But with that said, there's definitely a possibility with that one of these years I'll end up taking my kids up there, and that'll be the perfect excuse to go. So it's just finding the time. I love the stuff, and I could sit in panels all day. I'll warn you, because I do know this from when I did go. John and I didn't sit in any panels when we went, but we did see the lines for those panels, and a lot of the panels, especially at Planet Comic Con, are first come first serve seating. So make sure you plan ahead, know exactly which ones you want to go to and where they're at, and get there in plenty of time to get in line so you can get a seat.
Yeah, I think we're gonna make a concerted effort to be more prepared to attend the stuff that we would, because they have a lot of good content, and it would be awesome to hear some of these people talk.
Yeah, and I'm excited. I want to look into. I'm gonna start looking into Comic-Con a little bit more, and knowing what they have up there and what they're doing. There's even a possibility that because at Comic-Con kids get in free. I believe it's under 12, which is both of my kids. So there's a good chance that they're going to be coming up as well, since it'll be make a weekend out of it. So it'll be kind of fun.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So, well, Holly, thanks for coming on and talking to us all about Planet Comic-Con and your experience there. It's always good to hear not just a female's perspective on everything, but just another fan's perspective and somebody who hadn't been before. So,
yeah, I really enjoyed it. We'll and I hope that I can come back on and we can talk about other things like movies, WWE, obviously, throwing a few minutes to promote CrossFit, how important that is, the things that make life go round, the usual stuff.
Absolutely. So, for those of you who want to follow more about what Holly's doing, you can follow her on Twitter. She has exercised herself from Facebook, so you can't find her on Facebook. But you can find her on Twitter at Queen Tuffy Rules. So go check her out on Facebook. Give her a follow. She likes to post pictures about her food and CrossFit stuff. So, and
thanks for
comments.
The plug, Aaron.
Yeah,
I
there
appreciate
you go.
That.
Now you're gonna get like a whole nother 5 followers.
Well, and anyone, of course, who follows Seth Rollins, of course, that's also very vital too.
Yes, because the WWE makes the world go round.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Does in this house for some reason.
Well, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Aaron. Thanks, John.
Well, you need to go to bed now. It's way past your bedtime.
Way past.
Thanks, Holly, and we will talk to you later.
Bye, guys.
So, John, what were your thoughts? You have anything else you want to throw out there about Planet Comic-Con, or did Holly cover it all for you?
The only thing I wanted to talk about is there's a humongous tabletop gaming portion to Planet Comic-Con now. There was, it kind of felt like looking at a Gen Con type of event calendar. There was quite a few games you could have signed up for to play. I think there was even some RPGs going on. So,
really?
Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, that was something that was there a couple years ago too, but it was like a smaller scale. Did they have like new games that you could sign up to play, like not release, not out to the public type thing, or?
Not that I saw. I just saw things that like the Cthulhu pandemic kind of game.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Some Star Wars stuff, things like that. I mean, the standard fare that everybody knows.
Right. Right. That's really cool, and I'm glad that they did that. I'm sure part of they did that a little bit in part too with it being International Tabletop Day. Needing to throw in a little love. And you've got Felicia Day there at your comic book convention. You should probably throw a little love to the thing that she, her and Will Wheaton started. Well, Will Wheaton was there as well, so
Yeah.
yeah, throw a little love to the thing that those two kind of created. So, which that's what we do. And I played tabletop games yesterday for International Tabletop Day and played some more today. So,
Yeah, the only thing I got in for International Tabletop Day was a D&D session that
yeah,
you missed.
I did miss. I screwed up. My scheduling screwed up. But we will talk more about that probably next week, along
About
with.
how I trolled him on his text
Oh,
messaging, making him
yeah.
think his character was dead.
I really thought he was dead too. I was already like, no kidding. I had when I got home and I'm like, shit, I'm not gonna be able to make it up there to play. I pulled out my player's handbook and started looking at, well, what kind of character should I make next? So, yeah, it was there. It was well done, sir. Well done.
I do what I
Uh,
can.
All right, everybody, check out our blog at geekvice.blogspot.com. We got another review from Norm from Cheers. He, what was it? The latest Fast and the Furious movie?
Yeah, Fate of the Furious.
Fate of the Furious. He got a review up there for that, so go check that out. Leave some comments on there. That would be good. Let us know what you think. You can also follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/geekvice. That's where you can find information about our event. You can find out information about when we go live here. I try to post stuff up there every so often. Sometimes you'll find a little bit of information, a little bit of stuff that I peruse the web and find and say, oh, this is something that Geekvice fans would like. So you can find that kind of stuff on our Facebook page. You can follow us on Twitter. You can follow that man over there at Kip Killigan. You can follow me at Geekvice. There's a few things up there here and there. Especially our YouTube stuff always goes up on Twitter. You can always find that on Twitter. But you can also get notifications when that goes live by going to our YouTube channel and subscribing and turning on your notifications for it. That's tiny.cc/geekvice. That's the easiest way to get there. But you can also get there through our Facebook page. There's a nice little link over on the left-hand side that says YouTube. And if you want to reach out and talk to us, you can do it through our Facebook page, but you can also email us at geekvice@gmail.com. Let us know what you thought about playing at Comic-Con, because I know there's a bunch of people out there that went. Let us know what you thought. If you got any cool pictures of stuff you saw there that you want to share with everybody, send them our way. We'll put them up on our Facebook page. We'll make a little album for playing at Comic-Con. And also, be sure to let us know if you're coming to our event next week, our Geekvice Tabletop Day. Let us know that you're coming. If you know that you can make it, let us know, and we'll make sure there's plenty of seats for you. So if not, just show on up. It'll be good. Open house type feel. Showing up, we'll have games there. You can pick something out and join in. So that's all I got. You got anything else?
That's all I got.
All right, man. Thanks everybody for listening to our ramblings, and we will see you next week.
Later.
This podcast is part of the Podcast Arcade Network.